So one of the issue, like for example, the computer misuse and cybercrime and also data protection, most of the laws that we have in-house, they borrow from international laws. So also these applications like WhatsApp, of course, they have been sued. If you look at, let's say, just look online, they've been already been sued by someone. Because if I'm using the application, it's not my problem. Even if I send, because they say it's end-to-end encrypted. So they have to ensure that it's end-to-end encrypted. And that's why you'll find a problem. Most of the application, let's say the government wants to get some information, they're not able to share. Telegram was sued, and of course, there's some countries that do not use Telegram, and it's because there is a way someone can be able to bypass information on Telegram and get you information. So when you're looking at the application, look at it like, for example, if you're sending a message, let's say you're sending a video, is it end to end? So if you end to end encryption, we're using encryption techniques. So that means the only person who has access to that message, it's you and the person who is receiving that. Okay. And when you're looking at that, of course, it brings about cryptography, which is basically you're trying to conceal information so that now only the people who have access to that, and the access is your password that you have. You can put a password. You can make sure that if you're sharing a video, you don't, WhatsApp group is where now people share just random videos. If you have noticed on WhatsApp, um, if you receive any video, if you don't save it, it doesn't go to your gallery. Initially, that was one of um, the flow in their system, where if you're in a group and you have changed your settings to download videos or images automatically, you go to your gallery, you get some video, you're like, where did I get this video? But now, right now, you have to save it. So what that means? It means that before you use any application, look at the security part of that. How is your data secured? How is, when you're sharing that data, ask yourself some few questions. If you're sharing, does anyone else have access to that? Do they have security protocols in place to secure that? So that now you don't end up using an application. Yes, it may be, like, for example, you remember we had an issue with what it was called WorldCoin. So, they wanted data to train their model. And of course, they know that if they say that this is crypto and, blockchain, crypto and all that, so people ended up sharing their irises. Like when they were taking that picture, they were capturing your data. So that means someone already has your data. They can use it anyhow they want to use it. And that means now something that you're not supposed to joke with is your biometrics. Because if someone intercept or get access to your biometrics data, this is not something that you'll get a new one. This is something that you have been born with. So for you to now, in case someone um, has or does any data breaches with it, so that means this is something that you'll use all of your time. And that means that now, in case even you're enrolling your biometrics to any application, look at the security, how many users do they have, look at where is your data stored, what do they talk about, the terms and conditions. Terms and conditions are very, very important. So make sure that you go through that so that you don't end up getting your data somewhere where you didn't want to happen. Like for example, we have many applications in cybersecurity. Like for example, I told you about the open source intelligence. So if I want to get information about you, I know you have posted, you are on these dating apps. So if I put your name or your email, you'll be able to get all the applications that you are there, even dating apps. So that means you have to be very careful. You have to make sure that you remain anonymous. And remaining anonymous, it means you have to know what to share. Okay. And then, of course, we also have, like, for example, your email. We have phishing email, we have the dark web where data is being sold. Right now, we have malwares that now we call it crime as a service, where now, they say crime doesn't pay, but it pays more. You see someone all of a sudden having a private jet and all that, or fancy cars. And the reason is maybe they got your data from the dark web. So people are selling your data on the dark web. That include your email, your information, your name, your credit card information. So if someone purchases that and they purchase a malware, where we're talking about crime as a service, a malware, I've told you, is a malicious program. So they can run that. And then, of course, when they're running that, of course, phishing is a social engineering technique. which is basically the art of manipulating someone to click on something or be able to share some confidential information. So if you share that information, let's say you get an email and then without checking, you click and then you share your information. So what will be able to happen is that uh, that information can be sold on the dark web and someone can be able to use it using a malware to be able now to extort money from you. And that's what we call, if you hear people saying about wash wash, if you have never known what they're doing, basically wash wash is because they are able to have that malware, they've gotten your data, and then they are running a script that is able to do work for them. And of course, at the end of the day, they will have, let's say, a certain number of people clicking, and of course, there is return on investment. So you invest, they're also like working. So they invest to get that. So that means ensure that you look at the application that you're using, the data that you're sharing online, so that you don't end up being, of course, when we talk about only cyberbullying and all that, it's cybercrime. So we're talking about the entire cybercrime. So just make sure that you look at the data you're sharing, you look at how to secure your digital space so that you don't end up being a bait for the criminal world or the criminals that are doing now the cyberbullying or the cyber.
Okay, so let me just ask on behalf of the silent majority.
Okay.
Let's say, for example, we want to have peaceful protest, not quote unquote, peaceful protest.
Mm.
Yes, so how do you go about it when we want our information to be private?
Okay. Of course, that shows it's supposed to be peaceful demonstration, but the government has also shown excesses when it comes to collecting your data. You have seen where telecom have shared your data. They're not supposed to share your data. That is confidential data, right? So now, when it comes to peaceful demonstration, of course, abductions or killings are not supposed to happen because these the constitution gives us freedom for us to be able to demonstrate, and demonstrate is because there's something that is not happening the way it's supposed to happen. So now, most of the abduction have happened because we have shared more information online. That means, like on X, someone can know where you stay, can know your phone number, you can be able to know your email. Of course, when you're setting up, you get your email. So your email is the digital identity that you have. So once you do that, of course, I've told you about the tool. And if I was showing you this, you could even try with your email and you see a lot of information about you that I can easily be able to find all through. I can call it your footprint online. So that means um, if we have to, let's say, if you were doing a peaceful demonstration, you don't want the Subaru boys to follow you or to do whatever that, what how we call them, Subaru boys. You just need to make sure that you remain. Of course, I don't want you to commit cybercrime. Put that in quote. I don't want you to commit cybercrime, but you remain anonymous. And when I talk about anonymous, it means what you're sharing online. Don't share your information online.
All right.
Yeah.
So, Caroline, what role do you think universities should play to just maintain digital safety? Should they involve corporal punishment?
No, no.
Or education?
Okay, I don't think we should have corporal punishment or those kind of the traditional punishments, because we're in a new age where digital literacy is actually higher on the younger people. So one thing is education, like what Youth Cafe is doing right now on the acts, the policies. What does the law say about what we are doing as young people in the digital space? And also we are learning technology, and it's a concept or a program that is being adopted by so many universities, and many students are learning these technical skills. How do we get to learn about our boundaries on our boundaries on the consumption and the disposition of information that we are giving to the world? For example, if the university says that the students that are doing cybersecurity must take a law course on Act section. I don't know those things. You'll help us on Act section. This and this. That is
They
about,
usually take the law. You're
yes.
supposed to take some courses in the law. If you're doing cybersecurity, you have to take some law courses, and they're usually taught by lawyers. At the same time, also the cybersecurity lecturers have to make sure that they teach that one. Before I teach you, like for example, I told you I'm an instructor, I'm a lecturer. So before I teach you ethical hacking, of course, I'm teaching you to hack. So I need to make sure that you understand the law, Computer Misuse Act of 2018. You need to understand the computer data protection. You need also to understand the ISO, those international laws, so that you don't end up me teaching you and you committing crime. Of course, I tell them, like for example, before I train you to hack, I'm training you. Yes, I'll give you the skills, but your work is to protect system. But now, if you go ahead and commit crime, you're on it alone. So anytime we have any lab, there is a precaution that you put there that this is illegal. So if you perform on someone's network and all that, you are looking at 20 years imprisonment. So that is usually already incorporated in cybersecurity courses. So that now before we train you to hack, you have to know about the laws when it comes to the cyber crimes and all that.
Okay, on that note, I think also if you're training, if in cybersecurity and you're being trained on the law part of uh, practicing your cybersecurity, I think there should be extra skills because not all students who are in cybersec have gone through the traditional class to learn cybersecurity.
Mm.
Do we have open environments whereby they can learn law in an easier way? Before I even go 1, 2, 3, and 4, I'm able to know this and this has to happen. So education is the important part where there's open spaces, there are conferences on the policies, the law, um, and it is mandatory. Like you say, you should make it mandatory for conferences. We close school, we close classes. We say these classes are not running between this and this and no, I don't look for me. I'm a good girl, but what I'm trying to say is that if we can have these conferences taken seriously, and classes between those times are blocked, and say, let's go, let's learn because they are important.
All right. So before they give us their final remarks, does anyone have a question to the guests?
There's someone.
Oh, that's okay.
I had a question because of that's on the presentation that you gave given us most of the laws and the acts, the articles and the act. They are more. I feel like they are more of from the user's perspective, the ones who are interacting with the tool. But I was just if you can explain further whether their acts are also policies that are there to govern people who now create these systems, like the social media apps. If I can just give an example, not long ago we saw this tech giants, most of the social media uh, environment being sued. I saw Mark Zuckerberg, also the CEO of Snapchat, I guess. They are being sued because their platforms were being violated to facilitate child abuse. Yeah. So in our constitution, because I'm a believer that in the next years we are the ones who will be creating the system for our country. Are there like laws or policies that kind of like govern us on where where we draw the line between our role to play towards protecting our users and where now it's the responsibility of our users to take care of themselves.
Mhm.
Uh,
You
I think
respond first.
I'll respond. So that's a very good question. First of all, we need to realize the same way, for example, your child will be playing outside and he kicks a ball and it breaks the windshield of your neighbor's vehicle. You do not come for the child, you go for the parent. And it's a doctrine in law called vicarious liability. So that's why you see CEOs of tech companies are being held accountable either through negligent activities or like there are no basic structures on how to regulate, handle, and deal with emerging social media or digital content use, for example, right? So, with your question, we have come a long way. There are 3 acts I will refer you to read. Though they are not comprehensive enough, we still have a room for amendments to make. For example, number one, there is the Kenya Information Communication Act. Uh, this act is solely anchored in Article 35, the right to access information. And when I'm saying articles and sections, I want to teach you one fundamental thing in law, which is very simple. When you cite the Constitution, you use only articles. When you cite law, acts of parliament, use sections. So that's two different things. So when you're citing the Constitution, you use articles. When you cite law as is passed by parliament, you use sections. So back to what I was saying, the Kenya Information Communication Act guides on access to information, right? On how a person can access information. And this now limits people who cyberstalk you to get access to your information. Number two, there is what you are discussing right now, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act of 2018. And it talks about a lot of things: impersonation, publishing of false information, explicit content, cyber harassment, cyberbullying, all those interfering with
So
computer systems, more so
unauthorized
with
access.
more so with government systems. And lastly is the Data Protection Act, which is solely anchored in Article 31 of the Constitution, which is the right to privacy. So with these laws that we have, we still come short because I was saying earlier that for you to get or to sue maybe the founder of X or the current owner of X, first of all, you have to battle between the jurisdictions, because do we have or do we host X offices in Kenya officially? We don't, right? So for you to go after a person like Elon Musk, it becomes very difficult because the positions or the offices that they are situated in are outside the locales of the jurisdiction of Kenya. And therefore, it becomes very difficult to handle such issues. But a solution for that, I've been a champion in advocating that Kenya aligns itself with international standards. The one Harrison was referring to, ISOs. So international standards. Therefore, for example, if we align ourselves with the South African Cybercrimes Act standard and the English standard, the Australian standard, the Canadian standard, then if such entities are registered within maybe the US, UK, Australia, Canada, South Africa, and you are indeed a member via international standard organizations, and your laws are tailor suited in an international setting, then it can become very, very easy for you to now sue these people in your local courts. I'll give you much details. The Constitution, Article 24, states that every international law must align to the Constitution of Kenya. Therefore, international law is also applicable in Kenya. But as it is right now, we do not have international law that is sharing Kenyans' issues with regards to other international organizations or international countries outside. Therefore, it becomes very difficult for you to prosecute a person who has committed a crime on a social media platform, and that platform is not registered in Kenya, and you are not a member to any international signatory or international accord. So you're just left with your own local laws. And once you fly outside Kenya, your own local laws do not now apply. And here is where now we have the disconnect that you're talking about. Yes. Yeah.
I can also add, I think you're a software developer, you're doing computer science, right? Software engineering. So when it comes just the way my co-panelist here has talked about, we lack that integration between Kenyan's law and international, but I'll talk about international laws because now when you are being taught about programming or coming up with a software, you need to be able to know that this software is it in healthcare. Like for example, you need to align with the HIPAA. So that means as a software developer, you have to go through the HIPAA laws, what they highlight when you're handling someone data. And of course, you'll find that most of them, like HIPAA GDPR. Of course, even they highlight the fine that in case you don't follow, when you're coming up with an application, you don't follow the highlighted laws or the policies that have been set in those international standards. So they also tell you what you will be able to pay in case you can be sued in a court of law. So we have Data Protection Act also has that information, because now when you are developing a system or a software, you're going to use people's data. So if you're using that data, you have to know how to handle that data. Like, for example, if you have a database, you have to make sure that that data is secured. Okay. So that means if someone accesses that data, you will be going against the Data Protection Act. And if the person takes you to the court of law, like, for example, there is I don't know if that will be also a case of data protection. There was just recently where when you go to the e-citizen, you could see the people who are going to wed. I think you saw that one. So that is violating the law. So in case you do an application and some data that is supposed to be confidential, then it end up for everyone on the public, that means someone can easily be able to sue you in the court of law. So that means if someone's if in case like the incident that happened, someone report it to the courts, the Data Protection Act will be able to find the is it the immigration, or I don't know, is it the one that deals with marriages? Is it immigration, or what does it tell?
Pardon?
The one that deals with marriages.
Oh, marriage. There is the Marriage Act in Kenya and the e-citizen platform
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you're talking about.
yeah.
I saw that when you now want to register a new marriage, then your information will be out in the public for anybody to access it.
Yeah, so if they have not taken it into
That's the
public
problem.
participation, now it becomes a problem, because you can still sue them. Why will everyone know that you're getting married and know your wife or your husband online? So it's not supposed to be that way. Yes.
Yes. Okay, that's one question.
What from you? From yeah. So
Someone
have you
else?
started? Or okay. Yes. You tell.
But consent, there is explicit consent and implied consent. So for explicit consent, it's very simple. I take your photo, I ask you, can I upload it on my Facebook page? You say yes. So that's explicit content. But uh, the implied consent can now be difficult. And here is where now we bring in the Sexual Offences Act more so. I know I'm deviating, but I want to use it as an example to help you understand. So when you go and meet a partner, for example, and you bring them over to your house, then there is always an element of implied consent. But the issue with implied consent is you need to corroborate that implied consent, such that if you were to undertake something between the two of you and there was implied consent, then ask yourself, if I were to land in court tomorrow, can I prove that she or he gave me consent to do A, B, and C? If you cannot prove it, then don't go ahead to do it. Also, I see people who like you drink and I drink, and then we meet a fine lady, she's drunk, we go back to our place, and then in the morning when you're sued, somebody said, but we all consented to it. But the issue is she was already intoxicated, so she was not in her right thought of mind, and therefore that consent is irrelevant. So there are nitty-gritties that someone needs to be very careful when actually obtaining consent, because there is express and implied consent. For express consent, it can be written down, right? It can be verbal, but it is recorded,
Recorded.
right? But for the other implied one is now where the difficulty comes in, to you proving that, hey, this lady gave me consent to share her photo online. So if you cannot corroborate the implied consent, then you don't have consent whatsoever. Yes. There is something we call the victim impact statement. Though this one is given just before sentencing or judgment is issued, but I do understand what you're saying, because someone will post something that is very offensive to you and you don't know about it, and people go about heckling at you, right? So the issue is now where we come in and say that the current act is not rigorous enough to tackle emerging issues like yours. So, what I propose, or what we propose as the Youth Cafe, first thing we need to amend the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. There is something we call the takedown procedure. The takedown procedure is a procedure that is used in law to inform a digital space to take down something that is offensive to another person. So it goes with the doctrine of notice and action. So you find a platform like Facebook, you give them a notice, timeline is given of a week or 2 weeks. If they fail to take down certain specific information, then they are held liable via fines or they can be sued. But as it stands right now, those are the many loopholes that are riddling the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act to the point whereby victims of cyber harassment, victims of cyberbullying, victims of fake news and propaganda cannot get access to justice. Because I started this segment telling you that if you're a victim and somebody has maliciously published false information on Twitter, you need to take a screenshot of that. You need to save the URL. You need to copy the link and save it somewhere. You need to report the matter to the nearest police station. After that, now it becomes a criminal case. Other than being a criminal case, if there is any further financial or emotional distress and damage that is caused to you by the actions of this person or the actions of this crime, then you can institute a civil suit. But as it stands right now, it's very difficult for you to now prove in court that person X defamed me on Twitter and you do not have sufficient evidence or you do not have a copy of what he or she said and you want to prosecute the matter. Therefore, it becomes a case whereby you are the victim, but you're also a victim of your own circumstance, in that you cannot be able to do anything because you are told, did you see what person X posted, but they later deleted it. So how do you go about retrieving that post again, which is nearly impossible. But what we need to understand is that we need reform and amendments to this act so that when you read the criminal code in Britain, Canada, Australia, when you read the Cyber Security Act in South Africa, you get the feeling or you get the gist that they have heavily emphasized on the takedown procedure, how to take down child pornography, how to take down nude pictures and nude videos and whatnot. So it is a key ingredient that is lacking within the Kenyan legislative system. Yes.
Yes. I wanted to respond to her question because it's something we're doing at Cybercrimes, another gender intolerance program.
Yes.
So yesterday we had a testimony of an ex posting nude pictures of the girlfriend. So the girlfriend reported to us. So at Connect we have the OGBV tracker. So
Okay.
we are tracking cases of online gender-based violence. It's an open source.
Mm.
So just in case you see something that is intimidating, you can be able to use that source. So what we do after that, we report it to the police if the victim comes. But
Okay.
if it is not taken as a victim case, we do take it to the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner, whereby they give you around 90 days for action to be taken again. So they help you through the process. So it is possible to have evidence-based approach
Okay.
so that it's very exclusive by tracking the data. And also we need to take accountability of the big tech platforms. Because one question they do ask us, especially where is the data? The same people are undergoing online gender-based violence. How many cases are there?
Mm.
So that is an approach to challenge us.
I have a quick follow through. Is it possible for you to now track perpetrators who commit cyber harassment, cyberbullying, and whatnot, even after the original posts have been deleted and or maybe the fake account has been deleted and whatnot? Because there are people, once they get the whiff that this person is going to make a report at the police station, they delete the whole account. So how do you go about that?
Partner with Meta
Okay.
to some of this data.
Logs.
Because you can report an
Mhm.
So when you report the accounts, they usually have backup data
Okay.
So just for them to be assured that justice is done, because as you said, they do have the mandate to be accountable for anything that goes online.
Yes.
So you need to have a close relationship with these deepfakes, because now what you're seeing is a case scenario whereby there's no evidence.
Mm.
No one reported, no one took a screenshot, the post even doesn't exist online.
Yes.
So what they do is they just use data and also now the understanding the victim, the perpetrator, the victim.
Okay.
Panicking here.
Thank you.
Did you remember the
Why this happening? It's not just matter why we talk through what I say. So if lecturer was taking you through that, you're supposed to go through the ERC, where now you need to understand about the risk, you need to understand about these different standards. You have to go through the different standard that talks about the different thing about security and also information and data. So it depends, but this depends with also the lecturer who is taking you, because the lecturer has that chart. But now you have to be able to do that. And of course, we have some certifications, which comes now to make sure that now, let's say if you have gone through ISO 27000, so there is a certificate for you of being an having gone through that ISO, so that now you can tell someone that I went through that. But now we have that through now the certifications and also the training. So depending with the curriculum that you have to incorporate that so that now someone can be able to know about what to do and what not to do when it comes to the cyber and forensics or digital forensics. Yeah.
So in the interest of time, we won't take more questions. Allow me to leave the guests give their final remarks as we conclude.
Okay. So, thank you first of all for participating and coming to this podcast. I do appreciate each and every one of you. I know probably some of you had other engagements, but you chose to be here. So, other than that, mine is to make a clarion call, not only to our legislative arm of government, but also to our judiciary, in that we need to be bolden when you are looking at the law and how we handle and issue out jurisprudential decisions from the courts of law. So, my parting shot today is number one, each and every person needs, in the modern day and age, in the age of internet, in the age of technology, in the digital age, each and every person needs to know their digital rights. What are your digital rights? A lot of activities are being done in the digital space, digital advocacy, digital marketing, digital education. Everything right now is kind of geared towards the digital space. So you'll be running a fool's errand if you do not familiarize yourself with your own personal digital rights. That's number one. Such that if somebody were to harass, talk, abuse, hate speech, and whatnot, do you know the right forum or the right recourse or the legal recourse you should follow in order to solve your problem? Because if you do not know your digital rights, then people tend to tramp over you. If you contact or consult lawyers without any much know of digital rights, some of them will give you very steep fees and whatnot. So it's up to you to take the responsibility and educate yourself on what includes and what are digital rights. Number two is to say that the current Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act is the embodiment of an old relic, in as much as it handles a lot of crimes that are being committed in the digital space. There are a lot of emerging technological advancements that are raining heavily on the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act. There is deepfakes, there is pseudonyms, there is AI generated videos and voices and whatnot. So, how do we as a society and as a country work towards implementing international and new emerging standards into our Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act? And the last thing I like to share with us today is we need to realign the way we as youths engage in the digital space, because a lot of people do acknowledge that they have rights, but they usually forget where your right ends is where my right begins. That is what a lot of politicians say when it's fit for them to use that phrase. But you need to understand that when you're using social media, I want to comment my mind, but is it targeting someone? Is it targeting a specific institution? Is it targeting a specific group of people? If so, how do I go about it? It's high time we as a society stopped acting very crass in nature and animalistic, whereby you go on Twitter and everybody is just ranting, people are making fun of each other and whatnot. There is that possibility of gimmicks and comedy and whatnot, but we need to know where the line is, such that I cannot, in my right sense, take a photo of this fine lady's child and I'll want to post it on Instagram without her approval. That is just basic common sense. I think that will be my parting shot today.
To me, to the youth, my fellow youths, guard your digital footprint. So that means do not overshare. At the same time, if you have to install an application, make sure that you are checking the terms or what you're allowing that application to be able to do. At the same time, make sure that you implement some security protocols that we have talked about, like, for example, two-factor authentication, so that your account should not be gotten, should not be able to get into bad hands. And at the same time, um, I like what the youth cafe is doing right now. Also, at the same time, we have to talk what is there. So we have had some abductions because of these tech companies sharing information about the people who have been abducted. So my urge will be to the judiciary, to the government. I know they're helping us coming up with the laws that will be able to, or the act that will be able to help us. But at the same time, they should not be able to infringe the law when it comes to tracking someone online because of his data that he shared. I know sometimes we may have criminals who are doing some things. So if it's a criminal, of course, the law allows you to be able to track that criminal. But now, if someone is not a criminal, they should not be able to violate the computer misuse and, of course, cybercrime act or the laws that they have set. So that means like, for example, I can protect myself, but I cannot be able to protect my SIM card, right? From someone correcting that. But now the SIM card provider or the internet provider should be able to protect that information. So um, as I end, just guard what you share online, your digital footprint. Make sure that you know what to share, even your close friend. Make sure you know what to share with your close friend, um, even if they are your girlfriend or your boyfriend. I've talked about view once. You can send a view once if you have to, but you don't have to do that in case you're just trying to make sure that so that now we don't have to have. But now, sharing is not bad also at the same time. But I've given you an option, view once. So send view once and all that. Even if I'm the one who wants to view more often, tell me only once, and that's good to understand that. So thank you for attending. Thank you for inviting me, Youth Cafe. So this is a good platform, and of course, feel free to share, engage other people, and it was nice being here. Thank you.
We can appreciate. All right. My tech today is I've been challenged. I've been challenged into learning the facts sections and articles so that I'm not careless on the things that I do because I need to be a better leader for tomorrow. Yeah, we need to be better leaders. And I think I'm speaking that for everyone in the room who is a student, that we take it as a personal initiative to learn those laws and act, so that even when we are chatting, tweeting, texting, um, we think of bullying, we know when we do 1, 2, 3, it's going to result to 3, 4, and 5. Yeah. So thank you so much, Youth Cafe, for taking this initiative to talk about these things. They are hidden to many of us. And now when you speak them out, many people will hear it and understand and also act with knowledge. Thank you so much for also choosing Yes Are You. You've talked with Sydney since I don't know when. It has not been working, but I thank God that it has happened at the right time. Yeah. Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much for showing up for our podcast today. We appreciate your effort and the insights you've given today. So to the students, I'd say remember the internet doesn't forget. And wahenga na wahembuzi. You remember the inshat we used to write? Wahenga na wahembuzi wako ajaba walipota pesa safe than sorry. So after that, I'd say we've come to the end of our podcast today. And if you wanna be an intern or volunteer with the Youth Cafe, we have QR codes there, or you can just search our website online. And also we have a feedback survey form. You can just scan it right there. We value feedback because we wanna improve in the next events. So until the next one, bye.